Hello everybody, tonight I am doing a recipe called braised chicken. I'll post a recipe when I'm finished, but let me show you what I've got started already. So I'm working in my cast iron, enamel cast iron pot. Check out all that brown stuff on the bottom, that's called fond. So that's a good thing. That's gonna create tons of flavor for our recipe. And so what I've done so far is I have cooked up some bacon in the bottom, and then I added, after the bacon was done, I took it out and I did 4 chicken thighs, 4 chicken legs, and just kind of browned them a little bit around the edges. And that's where I'm at right now, and I'm going to take over with all of you from this point. So my pot is off just so I can get the last ingredient ready with all of you. We are using leeks tonight. Have you ever cooked with those before? They look like this. So we've got green onions that have like skinny parts and the tops are edible. Now leeks, the top you don't really eat. So I'm just gonna go ahead and slice them. You can either use 2 small leeks or 1 big one for this recipe. I did one for you before you all joined in, and I'm prepping the second one in case you've never prepped these before. So you're just gonna trim off the edge, and then you're gonna use all the way up to where you see it starts getting kind of woody. So this is the part, and you can tell it starts to, it's kind of tough. So it would be fine in a stock, so you can put that in your veggie scrap bag. For these though, I'm just gonna slice them in half first. You can slice them in rounds if you want to. I think it's always safer to get your vegetable to a flat side so you can chop. And we're gonna put this right back into that pot. Now, all those brown bits are gonna completely come up once we deglaze with wine. So let me go ahead and add this to the pot. Whoop, kind of had a spill there. And live cooking show, you guys. So let me grab that. I just dropped a few of them on my stove top. It'll smell like fried onions if I don't get that off. Okay. So we'll let that go, and then let's go ahead and get the garlic ready. So this recipe calls for 4 cloves of garlic, so you know it's gonna be good. Just grab the garlic press. I'm gonna press it all straight onto the mat because we wanna add the garlic after the leeks have cooked for a bit. So if you add the garlic right away, it's probably gonna get overly done, and that's not gonna taste good because then it's just gonna burn. So I'm just gonna press it all here. What are you all having for dinner tonight? I'm curious. Anything yummy? My family almost gave up. They said, hey, why don't we just go pick up sushi at the grocery store? And I said, I can have dinner ready in 45 minutes. It would take just as long to go. So if that's ever happened at your house, you know it happens. And sometimes we all want a night off, but tonight's not the night for a night off. I wanted to hang out with all of you. So I've got these leeks are all cooking nicely. Let's go ahead and add the garlic in there, and I'm going to show you what the pot looks like. So take a look. The leeks and the garlic is coming up and cooking, and after just a few seconds or so, we're ready to add the wine. Now watch what happens to this brown fond when you add the wine. It starts to come up right off the pan. Do you see that? We're gonna reduce this and let it cook. All those brown bits are gonna come up all the way off. You see how nice it pulls up? And what's gonna happen is it's gonna create a fantastic pan sauce. So I'm just gonna let this cook for a minute. It's all coming up off the bottom, which is a great relief because if you're the person that washes dishes at your house, the last thing you wanna do is scrub on one of these, right? So the trick is if you see that browning in any of your pans, add something acidic. In this case, wine, a little bit of lemon juice or vinegar will do it. If you don't want to cook with wine, you can just add a bit of chicken broth and that'll do it too. Let's take a look at that pan now. You'll see it's all pretty much coming up off the bottom of the pan. So it's looking really nice. Okay. So I'm going to post this recipe for you all, but I want to show you. It's actually in our Season's Best. These are just $2, these cookbooks. And it's this recipe right here. So when it's finished, we are gonna serve it over mashed potatoes. You can serve it over rice or pasta or riced cauliflower if that's your preference. And now that the wine is starting to cook down, you're gonna wanna cook it for about 3 or 4 minutes. I'm gonna kind of speed things up for the sake of demo tonight. By cooking it for that amount of time, you'll help evaporate it so that you're just gonna get that flavor, but you're gonna reduce the liquid in there. I think it looks just fine. So what I'm gonna do next is add butter. This is a French recipe, so you know it's gonna have, you know, butter and bacon. I'm gonna cook the butter in there until it's melted, and then I'm gonna stir in some flour. And tonight I'm using gluten-free flour. So in most recipes, if you are eating gluten-free, you can actually substitute flour like the King Arthur gluten-free flour and have fine results. The only time I don't find the results are very similar, never with yeast bread. With biscuits, they will taste good, but they won't really look exactly the same. With things like cookies, you won't be able to tell the difference. So in this recipe, I won't be able to tell the difference, so I'm just gonna add the gluten-free flour. Okay, so my butter is just about melted. I'll go ahead and add that flour. And this is creating a roux. So let me show you now what it's starting to look like. So that's gonna intensify the flavor, and then it's going to help thicken the sauce, or the jus, that is going to be part of our recipe. Okay, so we just want to cook it just a little bit. You kind of see the wine is pretty much all cooked off. This recipe is definitely a little more complex maybe than the recipes you would typically do on a weeknight, but it mimics going to a French bistro, and isn't it fun to be able to create something like that at home? Okay, I'm gonna add a bit of Dijon mustard, and this is called the Petite Mesurol cup. I'm gonna pop that in there. And here's a money-saving tip for you all. It calls for Chardonnay or Pinot Grigio. I'm not a white wine drinker, so I buy these little bottles, and then when I need wine to cook with, I can just grab one of these from my pantry. I prefer to drink red wine. So that's those are the ones that I buy full bottles of, but those little bottles are a great cheat. And maybe you like to drink white wine, but you're not a fan of red. Just look for those little bottles. It'll be a great saver for you. Okay, time to add the broth. So a cup of chicken broth. I'm just gonna stir that in. And let's take a look. So it's gonna make a really beautiful sauce. So get it all mixed up in there. And then we'll add the bacon. So this was 4 slices of bacon I started with. So we'll stir that all together. So this uses a different type of cooking technique called braising. And when I think about braising, I usually think about cooking in the oven. This is gonna braise on the stovetop. So now I'm just gonna take the chicken, and I did season the chicken with our lemon pepper seasoning. So this is 4 thighs and 4 drumsticks or legs. And I had 2 teaspoons of the seasoning that I put on there before I put it into the pan. So I'm gonna put that all back in there. So this only partially cooked. So I cooked the chicken for 5 minutes on one side, and then I turned it and did 1 more minute. Last thing we're gonna add, 2 more things actually, some thyme. Now here's the fun part about this recipe. You don't have to pull it off. So just bring it into your pot, and then we're gonna tuck it right into the side so we can kind of stir it in there. So it's just on the edge here. I'm just pushing it into the pot. And then to this, we're gonna add some spinach. So if you don't have it, you can skip this. I always buy big tubs of spinach that I use for my smoothie. So I pulled out 2 cups worth so I could just put it on top. And this is gonna cook down, give it some flavor. It looks like a lot of spinach, but if you've ever cooked fresh spinach, you know it's not going to take, it cooks right down. There'll be nothing left to it. So this is what it's gonna look like. It's actually the cover recipe, so you can kind of see. And now it says to cover and cook on medium. So I'm just gonna put that lid lid on. We're gonna cook it on medium-low for about 15 minutes until it's done. So I'll set the timer. 15 minutes from now, I will take my thermometer and I will check the chicken thighs and the drumsticks and make sure that the internal temperature is 165, and that's the safe temperature to eat your chicken. We'll put it on a plate with some mashed potatoes and ladle some of that jus on top. It's gonna be really, really flavorful and delicious. So try new cooking techniques like braising, and you'll find brand new flavor combinations that are delicious. This is an economical meal to make, and it's fun to learn new things. So I'll post the final results in just a little bit. I hope you all have a great night. Take care. 5, and let's plate it up so you can see. So in my plate here, I've got some mashed potatoes. Use whatever you like. If you want to make this low carb, you can use mashed cauliflower if you like. I'm gonna grab a piece of the chicken thigh and then a drumstick, just like that. And then I'm gonna grab some of that sauce that's in the pan. It smells amazing, so just take a look at that. We'll grab a little bit more. Delicious. So there you have it, braised chicken. Give it a try. It smells so good. Enjoy your dinner tonight.